Can I give you mine after you're done?
No.
Okay.
This is the Daniel show, and
Yeah.
you're not allowed.
It always is the Daniel
you're-
show.
Shut up! You're not allowed your thoughts. Fuck off. Let's do the beginning thing, the thing where we begin and we start doing things at the beginning.
We begin near the end.
So I say, welcome back to another episode of the Unframe of Mind show, where we
Hey.
have uncomfortable conversations without a condom. And, well, if you haven't noticed, there might be a little bit of a world event going on in Afghanistan that,
You think?
yeah, maybe we thought it was time we said a little something on this subject. We don't typically want to be the first ones out the door trying to just, fall all over ourselves with bated breath and try to tell you all the things we think about something that we don't really know anything about. But now that it's been about a week or so,
We're not going to know all the details, but
yeah.
yeah.
So I mean,
we'll take a look at the numbers.
There's a number of things here. We would look at the numbers, obviously, but there's a number of things about this whole situation that I don't think a lot of people are even talking about, and hopefully we can touch on those today. So what do you say, Anthony? We run the intro.
Let's do it to it, baby.
All right.
You're listening to the Unframe of Mind show, the place to have the most mind-stretching, unprotected, intellectual intercourse of your life. Your hosts battle the forces of evil by lobbing fiery balls of truth, reason, and evidence over safe room walls.
Yes, truth, reason, and evidence over safe room walls. And today is no different. We're going to be talking about Afghanistan.
Yes.
I'm Daniel Wagner.
I'm Anthony Trawick.
And let's begin. What do you say we start with this little article here
Yeah.
from ABC Action News, Afghanistan by the numbers, eh?
By the numbers.
Yeah, so let's just jump right off here.
Now, you're wanting to focus a little bit more about, I guess, when it pertains to the numbers, cost of the war in Afghanistan since 2001.
There's that, and there's also some...
you also
stay
got
tuned for my thoughts on why I feel like this whole situation had to be botched and was done so on purpose.
You think so?
I can run a series of thought experiments that might
Right.
make sense, but let's wait for that. But I just want to jump off here. So obviously the war's been going on. We got the length of the war here. America's longest war of any type, surpassing the Vietnam War in the 60s and 70s. We're talking 19 years and 10 months.
Mm-hmm. That's a long
That
time.
we were over there. Yeah, think
Yeah.
about that. I mean, that thing was damn near able to drink legally in America. That's how old this thing is. The date the conflict was authorized, September 18th, 2001. I knew about this stuff back then. We've talked about our experiences when the Twin Towers collapsed and whatnot.
Right.
This is a week afterwards.
Yeah.
A week.
Yeah.
Look how quickly this took, from the point of those towers going to the point we needed to seek revenge and we got to act on it now. And it's like, it almost reminds me of those times, when you ever get in a fight with your significant other or a friend or whatever, and you immediately emotionally blow up. But then at some point in the middle of the fight, you realize, oh, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I'm in the wrong here. Maybe I'm the asshole. But you can't admit it, so you double down. You just got to keep going.
Well, you've already invested in the situation, so you might as well follow through with the rest of it because you've already, like I said, you've invested that time and energy in accusing or making accusations.
Right.
Because you don't want to retract your statement because then you look like a total douchebag.
Exactly. It's so much easier to just keep going down the road you've already been going down.
It's not the cost financially; it's the cost emotionally that you've already invested.
Right. Well, in that case, yes. But
Yeah.
I mean, think about that though. For a week after an event happens,
Yeah.
Emotions are high. Everybody's pissed off, and then 20 years later, we're like, yeah, we should probably pull out now. That's probably a good idea. This has definitely run its course. Are you exhausted from fighting? I'm exhausted from fighting. Let's move out. So, number of times Congress has constitutionally declared war?
0.
None at all.
Nope.
How many of the last few wars have been constitutionally declared, even though constitutionally they are supposed to declare war?
I want to say probably it was the Iraq War, Gulf War.
It was a long-ass time ago.
I think it was.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know enough about this stuff, and I don't think you or I, either one, are trying to pretend to be experts on this.
No, we're not experts. This is just from what we see, either what was coming down the news feeds or pipes or whatever, kind of getting secondhand stuff. Yeah. I've only kind of dove into this a little bit more over the last week or so.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to have the full extent of what's really been going on over in Afghanistan. Hell, just the Middle East in general.
So
I
I hope
it's
this
just
gives
so
people
complex.
a sense of, what the everyman might, maybe we're seeing what most average people are seeing.
Yeah.
I mean, we study this stuff a little bit more than your average
Per
bear,
norm, yeah.
but not to the point that we're considered some kind of foreign affairs expert or anything like that.
No, we're no foreign policy experts. That's for damn sure.
So we got casualties comes to over 18 years, 2,352. So as far as casualties go,
Yeah.
and casualties don't mean death. So I'm sorry, that is deaths. Sorry, I
Yeah.
misread that. Deaths were 2,352, and just
That's
to clarify,
2,352.
right. So to clarify, what a lot of people mistake casualties for deaths, but that's not the case. That's anybody that gets injured,
Yeah.
harmed, whatever. But actual deaths are 2,352 in 18 years. I'd say as far as American deaths, that's pretty good. As far as American U.S. soldiers' deaths,
Yeah.
that's pretty good considering
Over a span
some
of 20
the-
years, I mean, that's, I mean, any loss of life is bad. We know that. We're, most common intelligent human being would, I mean, hell, you don't even have to be intelligent to know that a casualty is bad. But looking over the last 20 years and that time span, given the other wars from recent years,
Right.
This is
Yeah. I mean,
a
you're
fraction.
talking about losing hundreds
Small
of thousands
fractions.
of troops
Yeah.
in a single day
Yeah.
in world wars. That's like
Yep.
so. I mean, that kind of speaks to how badass
Well, if you think about it,
we
you've
are
had,
as a country as far as defense spending goes.
well, if you look at it, though, you probably had more casualties during 9/11 than you actually have had in Afghanistan over the last 20 years. I mean, if you want to put those numbers into perspective of casualties.
Right. So what's next on our list here? No. Okay, sorry. What I wanted to say is that is it speaks to how badass we are as far as defense goes, as far as how well trained our soldiers are, as far as how just how much better our soldiers are than the opponent in this case. Does that make sense?
It does, but I mean, how much you also have to take in consideration how much conflict was actually going on in Afghanistan for there to be a significant, case of casualties. How many combats have they gone through? Major combats.
Yeah, that I don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
I
I think that they've had conflicts,
Yeah.
but I don't think they've had necessarily wars.
Yeah, it's not necessarily
You know?
divided up into nice, tidy, the Battle of the Bulge or the Battle of War of 1812 or the specific dates and times where major conflicts happened or anything like that. It's all just been this kind of war of attrition over time. This
Like
slow,
spurts of
wearing down
conflicts.
And hell, if I remember right, we the United States taught other countries how to do this because it's actually a lot more expensive to attack someone than it is to defend.
Right.
And if you can sit there and just defend your territory and just kind of, just the long haul war of attrition, wear your enemy down financially, the United States has spent so much money on this conflict that it's like, that's in my view, that's all they're doing is as far as the Afghanistan troops, the Taliban and all the whatever related parties, they're just trying to wear us down, and it's working because
no, I understand that, and this is kind of something we touched on before we started this recording was the fact that I understand that this, in general, any kind of war conflict is going to cost the U.S. billions of dollars, if not trillions. I know that.
Yeah.
That's not my concern with this whole situation.
Oh, I know.
It's been how the administration, the Biden administration, handle this whole thing.
Yeah, and
that's been the issue for me and a lot of Americans.
Right.
That's
what we're working up to. That's
right.
Gotcha.
I mean, I know you want to do it by the numbers. I think most of us already know the number. Well, if they don't know the numbers.
Well, there's a reason I'm setting this up.
I know. I'm kind of putting the horse before the cart. I know.
I do have a direction
I do that a lot.
I'm headed here in general.
Well, then hurry up and get to it.
Sorry, hurry up and get to it. Yeah, I got it. So I mean, just looking at this chart here, this is one of many charts I've seen where it shows defense spending by the U.S. as compared to all other countries. We're talking about we spend, according to this one anyway. This is from Peter G. Peterson Foundation. United States spends more on defense than the next 11 countries combined.
Jesus
at the
Christ.
tune of $778 billion. I'm assuming per year.
Wow.
I'm assuming that's per year.
I can't read that fine print at the bottom.
Yes.
Is that what it says?
It says sources Stockholm International Peace Research Institute expenditure database, the military expenditure database. These are data for the United States are for fiscal year 2020, which ran from October 1st to September 30th of 2020. This is just a year. The next 11 countries combined spend $761 billion. We spent $778 billion back in 2020.
That's insane, man.
That's just defense spending. There's no reason for that.
No,
I mean,
I agree with that.
Absolutely no reason for that. I actually heard a right-wing commentator talking about how, they're putting all this money into this and this and this, but defense spending is staying level. They were pissed about it. Like, we should be adding more to our defense spending. It's like, dude, no. No. Do you even know how much we're spending?
And you wonder why we keep printing so much fucking money.
Like, holy shit. Holy shit. It's insane.
Yeah, it is. It's unheard of.
So, again, and just to wrap up these basic numbers, we got financial cost is we're looking
9/11.
Since 9/11, we're looking at $202.2 trillion appropriated by Congress.
Damn.
Also, the first U.S. conflict fully funded through deficit spending. I didn't know.
Wow. And
I was listening to Jimmy Dore the other day, and he broke down the numbers to the tune of something like I'm not a math whiz. I don't know the numbers right now. I didn't break them down. I apologize for that. But I want to say the number was something like $300 million per day was spent in this conflict alone. I'm like, the amount of people you could help with that money, the amount of assistance to the economy in the U.S. you could help, and people are like, why can't we just print more money?
Now that I'm thinking about the numbers, and I wasn't at first because, obviously I was wanting to get to another issue when it pertains to this, but now that we're talking numbers, I'm looking at this, and I'm seeing $2 trillion. The infrastructure in our own country, that money that could have went towards infrastructure here at home. And then you're also talking about situations such as California dealing with the homeless crisis. Think about what it could have done for California. I'm not a big fan or support of California because of their politics, but at least that money could have went here at home. Mm-hmm. I'm all for getting our troops the hell out of other countries when those countries should be defending their own territories or provinces. I firmly believe that. But the U.S. has had its hands and has been meddling in other countries for so long. Yeah. And I look at the cost to all this, and I'm thinking, man, our roads, our bridges, our school systems, you've got schools here that need to be seriously updated, but they're not. And I'm thinking $2 trillion, man. I wonder what the math is based off of the population of the U.S. people, and how much money that would have been per, person, what that would equate to. Like how much money each of us would had if that $2 trillion was divided amongst the population here in the U.S.
Absolutely.
That could have helped a lot of families, your middle class, your lower class. Yeah,
no joke.
Man.
So I do want to point to this too. So at some point, our conflict went from, we need to seek revenge, we need to get which I kind of feel like they were needing to go to war anyway, and I'll get to that later.
Yeah.
That's why we were so quick to jump over there and jump all over their asses, even though it didn't make any sense to me, even when I was younger. Like, why are we even going to Afghanistan? I didn't even honestly know we were in Afghanistan. I thought it was all about Iraq, Iran, that area.
Yeah.
I didn't even know till years later.
Well, Syria has been another conflict that we've been a part of. And
I wasn't really
now the situation with Turkey. It's just all over the Middle East, dude.
So at some point we went from revenge to, oh boy, we shouldn't be here. Let's change this around to more of a nation building kind of thing. Let's try to deliver our democratic ways to these people. Let's try to change their country.
You can't do that, man.
The problem is you're taking and this is
an average IQ of 84.
The average IQ in Afghanistan,
world ranking 23. Holy shit,
is 84.
Wow.
And that's okay. So we've talked about this before, and according to many other sources, that's about the average IQ for peak criminality.
Right.
It's the IQ that's it's in that sweet spot where you're not quite too stupid to pull off crime, but you're not quite smart enough to look forward to the you don't have that forward thinking tunnel of time vision of seeing what the long-term effects of your actions are. Right.
Yeah.
That being said, the United States we're talking average IQ closer to 100. 105. Closer to that, if I remember right.
I don't know. As the years go on, I feel like it's going down, but
it actually is. IQ US. Let's look at that real quick. See what the average IQ by state. No, we don't need that.
no.
Well, yeah, United States has an average IQ of 98.
Yeah, like you said, about 100.
Yeah, it's right about 100. So you're taking ideals from arguably what used to be a much higher IQ society.
Do you know your IQ?
Do not.
Mine's 111.
Oh, you had it like actually tested, or you
Yeah.
did like an online
That was
pop
like
quiz kind of thing?
No, I actually had it tested. That was I want to say probably 8-9 years ago.
Yeah,
Now it's probably gone down since then.
I haven't had it tested. I don't know, but I mean, arguably, the United States used to be a much higher IQ society. I mean, you kind of
Yeah.
see it in the kind of content that was coming out years ago versus today, and
Right.
the kind of things we're doing to our bodies, and the average IQ is actually dropping. There is a trend downward.
Yeah.
And you're taking that high IQ societal ideals and you're trying to apply them to a country that has an average IQ of 84.
It's not going to work.
It's just not like
No.
it's just they don't have the capacity, and I hate.
They can't comprehend
as
what
harsh
you're
as it
trying
is to say that. Yeah, I mean, you've seen the video of the Afghani soldiers trying to just do basic things like jumping jacks.
Right.
Like they can't even fucking figure out jumping jacks.
Right.
Like, are you
Well,
kidding me?
yeah. I mean,
Not saying it's an average. It's not all of them. It's not nothing like that. But it's like you have to take that into consideration when you're trying to
hand off a country back
force
to
your
the people
ideals
and-
off on somebody.
Yeah.
It's no wonder that the Afghan soldiers, as soon as we left, were like, "Oh shit, okay, here's the guns, we're out."
Yeah.
Like, there's no wonder they did that. Like, and
We had
how
20
many-
years to train them and build them up to a level in which they should have been able to protect their own country.
Right.
I mean, your top officials ended up abandoning their people in government, when the Taliban came in and started taking over. I mean, it's just it's a mess, dude. The U.S. doesn't need to be in this situation. They don't need to be meddling in other foreign affairs when it comes to the Middle East.
Well, they think they need to be.
I personally think this. Okay, here's my take on this. Yes, we should have pulled out. Hell, if anything, we should have pulled out a long time ago. But that's here
I
nor
heard
there.
that. I got 4 kids. I should have pulled out years ago. But
But my point, though, is that I agree with removing our troops from the Middle East. It then turns into an issue of how do you do this? How do you handle it? What's the correct way? Is there a correct way of doing this? In my opinion, nobody really knows.
Well,
Now, you can strategize all day long with your top military officials, but until that situation happens and that evacuation starts to take place, you are then talking about a people, like you said, with an IQ of only 84, that is going to freak out. Because they depended on the U.S. for so long to protect the citizens that were there, and now that we're no longer a presence in that area, people are clinging on to military aircrafts to leave that country because they are terrified for their lives.
Yep.
That's the mentality of an IQ of only 84. They're scared. They don't know what to do.
Yeah, they're just reacting. Absolutely.
That's what it boils down to, So
I mean, think about this. I mean, how many years have I been sitting here trying to advocate for anarchy, as far as the new ideal? Like, we
Right.
should get rid of the state, and here's why.
Yeah.
I can make all the arguments I want, but people are raised and born, and they only understand the state, and they understand the structure in which that happens.
Right.
For somebody to come into our country and try to force anarchy on us, I know that's an oxymoron. I get it. But if somebody would, like, I'm just imagining this: if somebody tried to come into our country and force new ideals onto us, we're going to fight that.
It's no different
We're
than-
going to rebel against that. We're going to be like, no, I don't understand this. This is not how I was raised. This isn't what I'm familiar with. This is a
Right.
brand new idea. And now you're trying to apply a brand new idea to a country that, like, literally doesn't have the mental capacity to see down the tunnel of time.
And that
Right?
same government is trying to apply that same situation when it comes to the vaccine shot. Think about that.
No comment. I got you. No comment right now, though.
Why?
We're just stay on task here.
No, I'm just saying that's just their, you were talking about that. You're talking about them trying to force the idea, or, just the force our way of life and our governing.
I get what you're saying.
You know what
You're
I'm saying?
talking-
They're
you're
doing the
talking
same
about-
thing with the shot. But what
And the more they force it, the more people are like, no. Why are you wanting so badly to force this on us?
But that's the difference. The IQ is higher here in the United States, and
Yeah.
people are actually going to fight and push back. Whereas over there, it's just they don't know how to react. And it's, what's interesting, though, is we're talking about this whole thing over in Afghanistan. Not once anybody mentioned COVID. Nobody's wearing a mask.
Jesus Christ. So according to this MSN,
I had to bring that up.
article, Americans will be paying for the cost of the war in Afghanistan
For decades. Yeah.
Decades, dude. And it's not
yeah.
okay. So they say Americans will be paying for the cost of the war, but really it's the American taxpayers. It's really the American taxpayers' children and grandchildren.
Yeah.
I mean, what war was it? We just I think it was the Civil War or some shit. I remember hearing recently that we just now finished paying it off.
Yeah.
I could have the war wrong, but I do remember hearing something like that.
Yeah, I have. That was brought up in a discussion that I read online because of this whole conflict that's been going on over in Afghanistan, the way that we had pulled out.
Oh, my God. Okay, yeah. So the nation largely financed the post-9/11 wars through debt. The bombings at the Kabul airport this week, which killed 13 American troops, are a stark reminder of human toll in the Afghanistan war.
But here's the thing, though, is that we had no American casualties since February of 2020.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like it's a situation where, we're in constant conflict or at war with people over there where we're losing.
Jesus Christ. Sorry, I just read the next. Okay, so according to that's because the nation largely financed the post 9/11 wars through debt, according to analysis by the Cost of War Project, an initiative from scholars at Brown University and Boston University. Taxpayers have already spent $925 billion in interest payments related to those wars.
Jesus
That's
Christ.
just interest payments. That's almost $1 trillion. Yeah, that's almost $1 trillion in interest payments alone. And the sad thing is, if you were to ask the average American, hey, would you like to spend $925 billion in interest payments alone? And we'd be like, no, that's just fucking stupid. Like, why would we do that?
I'm reading the next line. It says the analysts estimate the American pullout last year, that cost of the interest on the Afghanistan war debt could grow by $2 trillion by 2030 and to $6.5 trillion by 2050.
That's just the interest alone.
I'll be dead by then, but shit, that's just insane, dude.
That's your daughter paying for
I know.
that.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I was going to get at. Yeah.
Right. And that's not fair to them. They did not get a say in this. They did not get a vote in this. Congress just decided to. We went to war without the approval of Congress.
Right.
Which is like, I know it's a minute protection against just all-out war criminals wanting to go cause more wars.
I know.
It's a small separation,
Right.
a defense against that, but even that's not being used,
Right.
and people aren't angry enough to insist that, hey, this is an unconstitutional war. What the hell are we doing over here? Why are we? No, just back off, get out. We're not doing this.
But here's the thing, though, is that our government is going to do what they want to do. Fuck the American people at this point. It does not matter what we say.
Yeah, it never did. But
well, there's not a strong enough pushback to our government to say, no, what are you doing here? Now, the only time where we actually saw a real physical presence or pushback was during the Vietnam War. I mean, it's got to come to a point to where this shit's got to stop.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, if people would just take the time to recognize how much money is being spent on situations that we should not even be involved in. And even if we are, we don't need to be spending damn near 20 years over in a country. Get the hell out.
So let's get to your numbers you had.
Yeah.
So
I was doing a little bit of research, and over at the Daily Wire, I was reading these numbers, and it kind of really surprised me, but then not so much. But this is what we've left behind since we just sporadically up and left, Afghanistan. So 85 billion in U.S. weaponry. That's weapons.
Good
85
Lord.
billion of weapons have been left behind in that country.
And we can't even get a bump stock over here, No.
No.
We can't have a magazine that's like a little bit too large for the
Right.
liking of the Democrats. It's
So-
like I got an idea. Let's leave how many billion?
85 billion
85. Let's leave $85 billion worth.
of weaponry over there in
Oh
Afghanistan.
my God! Is that
Then
is that retail or wholesale value?
wholesale? Costco.
Oh my God!
So then you've got 16,000 pair of night vision goggles. Now, what you have to understand is that the people that we were fighting over in Afghanistan did not have that kind of equipment to see our troops at night.
Yeah,
that's where we had the upper hand.
Why we were not losing all the troops? We were carrying out
Right. Now they have this equipment.
Right. Right.
So it's like
I heard actually Dan Bongino was talking about that on the show I was listening to. He was talking about how like we had the upper hand in that. Like we could go carry out these operations at night, and there's something about being able to use the night vision goggles, carry out the operations, do what you need to do. It keeps your troops safe.
Yep.
Or keeps your fellow soldiers safe, and it strikes terror in the heart of the enemy. But now the enemy's like, thanks guys. How many pairs?
16,000 pairs.
That's
a pretty good small army over there.
Yeah,
I mean,
no doubt.
But anyway, so moving on. So other things that were left behind were attack helicopters and drones. Now, you may not think that's a big deal, but actually it is, because the Taliban can actually sell it or give it to China for them to reverse engineering, for them to actually understand our military technology. That's scary. That's stuff that I would think is probably more or less classified, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. But now
you would think, right.
you're giving that engineering and technology to China. The last fucking place you want to have our U.S. technology.
Just the idea that Joe Biden seems to be in the back pocket of China.
Hunter Biden.
through Hunter Biden.
Yeah.
Lots of blackmail going on there. Huh?
Yeah.
I wonder if that had anything to do with the fact that maybe, I don't know.
You know what?
Maybe
Joe Biden should never pulled out of Afghanistan. He should have pulled out before he got Hunter Biden. I'm just saying. So we've seen how messed up that whole situation is. So anyways, moving on. That's just kind of away from the numbers. But
are you saying this isn't the first time Joe Biden failed at a pullout?
Well, there you go. We got T-shirts coming for days.
Continue.
So what I found interesting is that not too long ago, a reporter had asked Joe Biden specifically, is there a comparison between the U.S. withdrawal in Kabul and the flight from Saigon from 1975? Now, if you've been online, if you have any idea how social media works, you would have seen this photo of the two helicopters. One was from Saigon over in Vietnam, 1975. The other one was 2021 over in Kabul, where very similar images of the helicopter flying down and picking up people that work at the embassy to get them evacuated. Okay? So this is what Joe Biden had to say to this reporter. There's going to be under no circumstances where you're going to see people being lifted off the roof of an embassy in Afghanistan, Joe Biden. Well, I hate to tell you, but that's exactly what we got. And a lot of people say that what happened over in Vietnam was part of the reason it's why Ford, lost his presidency. He didn't get reelected. Will this have that impact on Joe Biden's, presidency trying to run in 2024? I absolutely do believe this is going to be a crucial turning point in his presidency. Do I think he'll get reelected because of this? No, I do not.
You sent me this article from GQ, why Trump abandoned the Kurds, explained. This was back in October 7th, 2019. So, yeah, and a lot of people are comparing, I think you sent me a link, said something about...
it's not to compare, it's to make us realize when we put our blinders on to certain situations, as we are with what Biden had done with pulling out of Afghanistan, you often have to ask yourself, well, what happened during the Trump administration that we didn't focus on because we chose not to? This being one of them.
Yeah, this image you sent me is from Jeff Tiedrick, I guess his name is.
Yeah.
It says, pro tip, if you sat silent when Trump abandoned Syria and evacuated exactly 0 of our Kurdish allies and handed over our military bases to Russia, kindly sit the F down and shut the F up and spare us your fake outrage over Afghanistan. Biden is rescuing tens of thousands.
I don't agree with the last part, but everything else is, pretty on point. I have to agree with that.
Yeah, it's really easy to keep doing this, and you always hear about this whataboutism, like, well, why are you mad about this now? Well, because it probably didn't come up in your news sources back when it was going on is the problem. That's the issue with people being echo chambered off in their own little silos. If you don't follow information sources from both sides, you don't know some of the stuff. You have to follow
both sources.
Some of the stuff you just do not know. You're not aware of. That's not reported on. If I'm on the right wing and anything negative against Trump is not necessarily going to be reported, at least not to the point that left wing But then again, left-wing reports it so much that, like, well, which one's actually true?
Well, and here's the thing
Becomes
for
a pain
me
in the ass to
is,
figure out.
yeah, and the thing for me is, I am a Trump supporter. If he runs in 24, I'm gonna vote for him.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have to hold my president and people I've elected into Congress accountable for what they do. That's a part of what we should do as a nation, but we fail to do.
You would think.
When it's people we elect into office. And I think this is where we've fallen apart as a society, is we're not doing this, because you know what people are doing? When they vote for that person, they're so wrapped up into their my president,
Yeah.
they're putting their fingers in their ears and going, la, 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 I don't want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah,
That's a problem.
Suddenly, to say anything negative about that person is like, no, I can't. I
But
gotta
it's-
justify my vote no matter what.
But it's not to justify my vote or him as a president. It's, hey, it's going on both sides here. You have to come to grips to understand that this isn't just a Joe Biden thing. This isn't just an Obama thing or Bush thing or whomever you want to talk about.
This is a state
This
power
happens on both sides of the
Absolutely.
political aisle.
This is the state. Well, I mean, because the state has what it's doing.
Yeah.
And then the state has what it's telling its people it's doing.
Now, the difference between
Right?
yeah, correct. I mean, but the difference between what happened over in Syria versus Afghanistan is that you're not talking about civilians over in, Syria. You're talking about the Kurds, the Kurdish, that we have fought alongside with for many, many years, and then just up and left them.
Right. So just to give a quick update, just so
Yeah.
people who don't know, it says again, this is back in 2019, October. Late on Sunday night, the Trump administration announced its decision not to interfere with a planned Turkish military campaign into northern Syria,
Yeah.
leaving American allied Kurdish forces vulnerable to a regime in Turkey that considers them a terrorist group. Well, hell, the Proud Boys are considered a terrorist group. What's that even mean anymore? The news astonished. See, that's the problem with trying to label things, man. You just
Yeah, it's just everything's a label
loses
now.
anyway.
It loses the value of it.
The news astonished foreign policy experts, drew criticism from Republican lawmakers, and even prompted the dependable White House cheerleaders at Fox and Friends to engage in some awkward on-air bickering.
Yeah.
Quote, "What kind of message is that to the next ally that wants to side with us?" Hey, dude, whoa! That's interesting, because I've heard people right now, right-wing commentators, saying that exact thing.
Yep.
We're pulling out. We're leaving those guys behind.
Yep.
What message does that wait, what was it? What kind of message is that to the next ally that wants to side with us? Like,
That's coming from Fox and Friends.
It's the same narrative, same story over and over again.
It is. Yeah.
irritating as hell how much we just don't learn from this crap. And are you finished with your numbers there?
Yeah.
Okay, so there was something that's been stewing in my mind.
Ruh-roh.
And I know, right? So the idea is basically this, is like Joe Biden had to botch this. Okay? It was done on purpose. I don't have any proof of this. This is just
Conspiracy theory coming out in you, Daniel?
I wouldn't say pure conspiracy theory. I'm just talking
borderline.
General speculation.
Okay,
And here's why. I mean, there's a reason why I think that it makes sense for the Biden administration to botch this. One we kind of alluded to earlier is the fact that, we already kind of accept that the Biden administration is in the back pocket of China. We already accept that China has a lot of blackmail on Biden and all other, especially left-wing administrations,
Right.
maybe even right-wing administrations. We just know that there's a lot of ties there that we don't quite see, invisible strings, so to speak. So
Yeah, I get
there's
that.
a lot of things that happen, a lot of actions that are taken on behalf of our government, that if you plug into that equation that China is, controlling things, at least to some extent, or holding things over our head, at least to some extent, that it starts to make sense why they do the things they do.
You're going to have to show me a whole lot of proof to back that theory up.
Right. I understand that. This is
Right.
just one of those things I'm going to have to, I hate to say it, you're just going to have to go do your own research on this.
Right.
But that's one reason I kind of feel like he had to botch it, because that could have been a backroom deal. It could have been something like, "Hey, China, you're about to get a bunch of weapons. Here they are."
Can I give you mine after you're done?
No.
Okay.
This is the Daniel show, and
Yeah.
you're not allowed.
It always is the Daniel show.
Shut up! You're not allowed your thoughts. Fuck off. So, the second reason, which I've posted on social medias and whatnot, about why Biden necessarily had to botch this is because there's a couple other reasons here that, and I'm going to button these up for you here in a minute. It might make sense. One, if he goes over there and botches it, then it's going to cause this conflict. It's going to cause what we're seeing now 10 days later. Oh, we've got 13 Marines being shot and a medic, and we've got, and you're going to start seeing images of like kids being, not tortured, but hurt and in dangerous situations. And they're going to start pulling on the heartstrings of the American citizens, all in an effort to actually get us either back into war to justify our time over there, our existence over there. We got to retaliate again. We're angry. We got to go back and, get revenge on those. And we've already heard a lot of on the right wing saying, hey, we got to go back and seek revenge on them. Biden himself has said,
right,
we need to seek revenge for those troops that died. Like, dude, yes, you caused the situation. We all know this, but people kind of forget after a while. Now it's about, once you see the imagery, once people see the propaganda put in front of their faces, they start to see kids being thrown up in front of them. And then they go, oh, no, we need to, get revenge. We need to get, justice for our troops or what have you. There's a reason the United States needs to be in war. It's because we're seeing our levels of debt getting way worse.
Right.
We saw Obama try it with Syria, and that didn't work.
Right.
Because
actually got pretty nasty, but yeah.
Right. Because of the internet right now, people are actually a little more awake, and they're more attuned to what's going on, which is great.
Yeah.
Back in the past, not so much. They kind of took whatever the government said to their word.
Because we were what I consider called a blackout. We were in a blackout. We only were given so much information by our 5 o'clock news and newspaper. That was it.
Right.
Now we don't have that blackout situation because we have so much access to what's going on in the world.
So when you get in a situation where your debt is getting out of control and you've got to get it back under control,
right?
A couple solutions are, well, we could raise taxes on the American people to help cover some of the costs that we've ran up.
Right.
Well, how many of you Americans are going to want to go, hey, yeah, that sounds great. I totally get it. Y'all had to spend that tax money, and we need to pay it back. We get it. Raise our taxes, sure. No, that's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. People will revolt. People are already pissed. People are already having their money inflate over time. We're seeing this issue. That leaves a couple other options. And one of those options is, well, we go to war. People are a lot more accepting of austerity measures if we go to war. People are a lot more willing to cut back. You see this back during World War II and World War I, where all of a sudden all the men are going off to battle. We're cutting back. We're supply shortages on rubber, so we're like taking everything we can. Everybody's like got this team effort mentality going on, trying to cut back costs, and as a result, we can kind of get that spending back under control a little bit.
Yeah.
And that way, that helps save face by the state. The state doesn't have to go, hey guys, guess what? We messed up. We screwed up. We're going to need to go ahead and give that, get your taxes up to help pay for this. So it's a way that the state can save face. They can go to war. They can, and it's needed. Biden needs a war right now. Hillary Clinton, when she was running, was constantly going on about going to war with Russia. Well, that whole narrative just kind of disappeared, didn't it? All of a sudden, we're not trying to go to war with Russia. Like, you see these little hints and these things over time of people of our government trying to go to war lately, and this Obama, Hillary, Joe Biden now trying to get us into a major war, a major conflict. We need a major conflict because then we can kind of hide the costs of all the bad mistakes they've made, all the issues they've been kicking down the road. Is this making sense?
No, it does. I got a completely different scenario that I think played out, but I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of the direction I'm thinking, and this is something that has to be done. And the last thing I want to cover before I pass it off on to you is we have another election coming up. People are getting hip to the election fraud. If we are,
talking about the presidential election, or are you talking about midterms?
Midterms, all that stuff. By the time midterms come around, what I'm getting at is the Democrats need more voters.
Yeah.
We might have a few Afghan refugees situation that we have to bring over to the United States to help them, even though it's shown to be much more cost effective to keep them in a similar country to their current culture than it is to the tune of like 13 times cheaper. It's 13 times more expensive to bring them over here and try to raise them in a country they're not familiar with. But we need them over here because the Democrats, at least, are going to want them over here because that helps to inflate the voter rolls by that much, and they need all the help they can get. That's why the border's staying wide open. They need all the people in they can get. They need all the voter regulations shut down. They need everything kind of in this invisible black box where nobody knows what's going on. This is just one of another many strings of paths toward increasing those Democrat voter rolls to try to make it look more legitimate. It does. These are just a few ideas and reasons why it makes more sense from a strategic standpoint for this entire withdrawal to be botched terribly.
I don't think it was botched. I think this was a situation where Joe Biden has specifically told the American people, Congress, everyone, that by September 11th, which he did say, it's on record, that he was going to pull all of our troops out of Afghanistan. Okay, I think what happened here, knowing Joe Biden being just the dumbass that he is, probably forgot about it. Time was moving along, and then he's sitting in the White House thinking, oh shit, I got to do something about it, because now he was getting pressure from the Taliban. Hey, we had an agreement that you were going to pull out before September 11th. I don't think there was anything in place. I really don't.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I think the White House and the Biden administration freaked out, did not have an evacuation plan set, and everything just went fucking crazy, dude. Look at where we're at. This is not well organized. You mean to tell me our U.S. military that can coordinate any strikes across this globe fuck this up? I don't think so, dude.
Nah,
come on, man.
I hear you.
I mean, it's just I can't go with that. I just cannot simply go with that. I think Biden was in a situation where his hand was forced into making a move, and because September 11th was vastly approaching, he had to figure out something. And because he did not have a strategic plan into place, I think he just said, "Get the fuck out." And we were left this mess.
Let's leave it up to the audience. What do you guys think? I mean, which one of our theories sounds most plausible? Who knows? I mean, we'll see how this plays out down the road. But I don't know. I don't even have closing thoughts. To be perfectly honest, I don't have closing thoughts. I see this kind of propaganda machine starting to kick up, and I'm just going, man, people aren't going to learn. We're going to end up back in war again.
Closing thoughts on my end. Remember this. Remember this come election time.
Yeah.
Look at what both sides are doing and how they're handling this. Make your decision not based off emotion, but rather actual actions of those that you have elected into office.
There you go.
When it comes to midterms and when it comes to the presidency.
There you go. All right. Y'all been watching the Unframe of Mind show, where we have uncomfortable conversations without a condom. I've been your host, Daniel Wagner.
Anthony Trawick.
Be sure to check out our other videos. If you guys would like to support us, we do have a way for you to do that over on our websites. We do sell a lot of cool merch and funny T-shirts.
What is it, like
mugs.
$2 a month?
And then we
you
also
can support
have
us?
Subscribe Star. You can support us as well. We would like to continue to make this show, and we can't do that without your support. So until next time, peace out.
See ya.